All right, everyone, it's time for a little bit of science news to start the day. I like talking about things that aren't politically related once in a while. The Optimus mission is set to begin next year, roughly. We're not 100% sure exactly how it's going to go. You could have some problems, but at the same time, if anyone can pull it off, it'll probably be Elon Musk. Now, what's happening is that SpaceX has decided to send a team of robots to Mars. Yes, indeed, literal robots. And not like the old school rovers or something like that. These ones are markedly more intelligent, more capable of perambulation and so forth. There are some problems that we have to address, though. Well, I think that the rocket will probably make it there. SpaceX is pretty good at this. And while I think that the robots will function, once the Martian night hits and it's 80 degrees below zero, computer systems tend to break down at those temperatures, so you're going to need to compensate. I don't know exactly how Musk intends to do this, but the robot is going to need an internal heating mechanism, and it's going to need an extreme amount of electricity in order to continue working. You're probably going to need to send up a solar array along with them, and they're going to need to set it up in quick order at exactly the right time. Otherwise, they will simply freeze up, quite literally. And I do not believe, by the way, that humans are ever going to seriously colonize Mars. With an enormous investment of resources, it would be possible for a small number of people, a nucleus of humanity, as you will, to inhabit the red planet. It would be possible to set up a research colony, for example, um, preferably armed, because otherwise other countries might get the idea that it's a good idea to bomb it or something like that. It would be possible to do so. The problem is that it would require an enormous amount of resources. We're talking trillions and trillions of dollars. We're not talking billions at this point. We're talking trillions in order to make it work. Now, while I support this particular outing, while I support Elon Musk sending robots to Mars, because basically it's nothing more than a more advanced version of the rovers that have already been up there anyway, and it would make sense to at least try to test the planet and see, are there any interesting things here? Is there geothermal activity? Is there uranium? Is there gold? Something else? Of course, if you manage to find, like, 500 tons of uranium and you stack it into the ship in lead-lined boxes or something like that, you could definitely you could make a profit. Otherwise, you're sinking hundreds of billions of dollars into a losing venture. This is more about resources, though. Human beings, other than for scientific reasons, I don't believe are ever going to be capable of actually inhabiting Mars. I don't think that we can. I don't think it's physically possible. Too cold, it's too harsh. The atmosphere is almost non-existent. What atmosphere is there is mostly carbon dioxide. Humans could not go outside without radiation shielding. The best bet is using robots. I think that we should be focusing more on the moon. It's closer, it's more habitable, that we've already been there, and so the logistics of that are a little bit easier. But sending a science team to Mars does make sense when you think about it, because there could be critical resources on Mars that could be exploited at profit. And this is what Elon Musk is doing. I don't think that Musk, although he is definitely eclectic, I don't believe he genuinely thinks that human beings are going to be able to settle permanently on Mars. I can't imagine that he actually believes that that's a thing. What I think he's trying to do is extract resources from it. Now, I still support it. I think that it's a great idea. And certainly, if anyone's going to do it, I'm hoping that it's the United States that does so because I happen to have, residency here in the United States as opposed to other countries. So yes, I'm hoping that that happens. But I don't think that people outside again of maybe a couple of scant scientific colonies are really going to be able to live there at all. Sending the robots, therefore, is actually a really good idea because the robots can be radiation shielded. They can charge themselves. They don't need food. They need basically solar panels or windmills or something like that simply to get energy. So they go up there and they're capable of perambulating around longer than a rover can. Some of the rovers that we've sent into space and satellites and things like that, they die. And they die specifically because there's no methodology by which they're capable of actually gaining energy. Um, Robots, meanwhile, as opposed to the old school rovers, can simply hook themselves into a charging station when they sense that they need to do so, and potentially could work for years, actually. Potentially, they could work forever, actually. The problem would be, I think, mainly the radiation more than anything else. And again, the other problem really is going to be the extreme cold. So the robots are going to have interior heating mechanisms. So will the panels. And so you're going to have to sort of balance the heating more than anything else. That'll be the big problem. The biggest problem won't even be keeping him charged. It'll be keeping them moving. It'll be keeping them capable of charging themselves, which appears to be the goal. These robots are substantially more sophisticated than what we've seen in prior generations of robotics. Uh, that much is true, quite clearly. But if they're incapable of gaining that energy, they're simply going to freeze solid and just stand there at some point. So we'll see what happens. I think that they'll get to Mars successfully. I think that the mission generally will be a success. It's just a matter of how long the mission actually lasts. That's about all. Peace out.